here at 1620 The Zone. Michael Wilbon. I don't think Josh knows where I'm going with this.
I don't, and you kind of have me a little scared.
Now I'm throwing you off because I tell people this all the time when I do interviews. People want to profile me or go with features and stuff like that.
I'm friends with Frank Caliendo.
I want to learn more information about Connor. Just what's his thought process look like? And I always tell people that I want the audience to be able to know what I'm going to say before I say it.
I have heard you say that.
I want to be so consistent that people know how I feel about things, and then they will listen because they want to hear those things. And I don't know if that's completely sound reasoning, but that's definitely the way I think about it. This one, I've intentionally tried to throw people off. What does Connor think? What do we know about Connor and the analytics community? Does he like them? Does he not like them? Is he in between? Is he on the fence?
You appreciate it, but you like a go with your gut.
I absolutely do. So Michael Wilbon made this very argument yesterday on a show that is still on television. Pardon the interruption.
People forget.
Here is Michael Wilbon, Josh, question for you. The Bucks going for 2 when they were down by 8 points late in the fourth quarter in a playoff game. Here he is.
Got to unmute the website. All right, here's Michael Wilbon.
Conversion attempt that left them 8 down. Don't start me with the 2-point conversions. And the analytics say go for it. Do the analytics say go for it no matter who's going for it? So if you and I were on the field, the analytics say go for it. It's the stupidest, laziest, lamest thing I've ever heard for reasoning in competition. And I hate when announcers just buy it without questioning it. The analytics say go for it. Jared Goff.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Went a little hard for my liking there, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, yesterday you came on this show and said that's the call. That's the play.
That's the play. That's what the analytics say. However, Michael Wilbon's reasoning and the whole lead up that he gave to really just the first part. Josh, can you pull it back up? Can we play like the first, 14, 15 seconds of that again? And his sort of reasoning and his sort of like diving board into the analytics chat. Here he is.
The 2-point conversion attempt that left them 8 down. Don't start me with the 2-point conversions. And the analytics say go for it. Do the analytics say go for it no matter who's going for it?
Stop. So that is a sound point. That is a sound point. And that is something that is not talked about enough when we talk about analytics. Now, I don't know what Todd Bowles, like all the information that Todd Bowles had. And by the way, we're talking about something that was basically completely meaningless in the game because Baker Mayfield threw an interception on the drive when they got it back anyway, right? So this is all hypothetical on whether or not it would have given them a better chance to win the game, because we don't know that because they didn't give themselves a chance to win the game or tie the game in this case. The point of do they think about who's going for it, your personnel that you have versus their personnel, how much you practice it, how well you do generally in 2-point conversion attempts, like if you're prepared for this situation at all, like I said, how much you practice it. The Tampa Bay, I think this stat was floating around, and I'm not 100%, not 100% sure if it's true. But there was some stat that was going around that Tampa only went for 2 twice this entire year in general. That would lead me to believe that you're not necessarily prepared for it. So was going for 2 the right call in that situation, knowing everything that we sort of know about it now? I think it's super up for grabs. The analytics absolutely say that. The analytics absolutely say go for it, and then you come back, and if you go for 2 again, and you give yourself a chance to tie the game.
I believe they had a 40% success rate this year.
A 40% success rate? Okay, so they definitely went for it more than 2 times.
If I'm reading this chart correctly, which, I mean, I don't know.
Is there, but like, the general question still remains to be the case. Like, is there enough data points?
Right.
Now there's also game situation. Keep in mind the Bucks, what they were in that game. They're the underdog. They're on the road. That usually tends to lead to a little bit more aggressiveness, right? So that's a point for 2-point conversions. But Michael Wilbon's first point of you have to take all of that stuff into account and not just talk about the analytics piece of it is exactly the point that I've been making for the last 5. That is exactly where I sit. The rest of it, not, shouting out nerds and all this stuff, whatever.
That's shtick.
You take the information that you get and you apply it to your team in your situation. That's how analytics should work. And to be fair, and to, I think, go with Wilbon's point a little bit, it is pretty, I guess I should say inconsistently, it's not applied correctly in a lot of cases in the NFL. Because it only, you go to the book. What's the book tell me to do in this situation? Okay, yes? All right, then we're going to go. And it doesn't take into account anything else. I always reference the one in the World Series a couple of years ago where they took Blake Snell out of the game in the 5th inning and he's rolling along just fine and he's thrown 72 pitches or whatever it was. I've never been more mad in my entire life, right? Do the analytics say take him out because you're going through your third time through the lineup? Absolutely. But the guy's rolling and it's the World Series, right? And he's your best pitcher. He's Blake Snell, right? He's not just, he's not Colin McHugh. Sorry, Colin McHugh didn't catch strays today on your retirement day.
Wow.
But he's Blake Snell. He's not Jordan Lyles, if I wanted to throw strays at myself.
Thank you.
Right?
Attack your own team, not mine.
I apologize to Colin McHugh, not Jordan Lyles. But I think the first point there is pretty sound. It needs to take everything into account. And the analytics have, people rail against analytics incorrectly because what it's supposed to be is another piece of information for coaches to take into account and could help them influence decisions and not make the decisions for them. And people sometimes think it's make good coaches take everything into account. Bad coaches listen to the book or go with their gut, black and white, right? And this leads us to really the main point of the entire thing, which is to say, we don't understand nuance. Part 1 billion and 1, Josh. We had part 1 billion yesterday. Part 1 billion and 1 is today.
I have a long read on analytics from ESPN here, and there's reasons why teams should go for it in that scenario. There's also a section, shouldn't we consider team strengths, weaknesses, and relation to league averages? And it says that's usually a good practice when making decisions, but in this instance, it will not swing the result. Let's say the team expects it can convert 2-point conversions at an astonishingly low 40%, well below league average rate. Your winning percentage, convert on the 2-point attempt, successfully kick the extra point and second TD and win. 38% chance of that happening. And then the percentages go lower from every other possible scenario after that. Even in this scenario, going for 2 leads for a higher win rate than kicking the PAT. Interesting.
Now, here's the other thing, too. If you miss the first extra point, if you miss the first 2-point conversion, and then you go back down, you somehow get the ball back, Baker Mayfield doesn't throw an interception, you go down and score again and get the 2-point conversion, and then go to overtime, I think another thing that gets misconstrued in the analytics community is that we look at overtime as a win result.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sure.
When
you're on the road to overtime, so the strategy works.
You're on the road in a playoff game. It is giving you a chance to win, but frankly, I don't know what the analytics say about winning on the road in overtime in a playoff game. I know it comes down to, to a certain extent, I guess not so much anymore in the playoffs, right? Because both teams, shout out to Josh Allen for that one. But it's a coin flip, and I don't like my chances to go on the road and win in overtime in a playoff game in that kind of environment. And I think in the analytics community, it's see, if they don't get the 2 the first time, then they get the 2 the second time, whatever. However you get the 14 points, it's the same as kicking 2 extra points. Great. Overtime is the result that we get, and that's not a win.
I'll meet you there. Yeah. In this instance, overtime is not the desired result.
That is not a good result for you. Maybe it is at some points in the regular season. Maybe you're at home. Maybe you can play for a tie when you get to overtime. I think if it gets deep into overtime and stuff like that. But that's sort of the point here. There's like 1 billion things that go into this. And I think when we talk about analytics or we talk about feel, like the old heads do, it's very, very narrow-minded. And like the people who do this to the best and who either cover it the best or coach it the best know when the appropriate times are to deploy both methods or neither method, right? Sometimes you just are going off feel, man. Sometimes you're going off a guy. And guess what? Like, just because you do the analytics part of it 100% right doesn't mean it's going to guarantee you anything. Doesn't mean it's going to guarantee you a win. Doesn't mean it's going to guarantee you overtime. Like, just because you went for 2, they could still miss the 2 times and end up falling, 4 points short.
And then you're a buffoon.
Yeah, and then you're a total idiot. And then all the old heads will be like, see, I told you, kick the extra point twice. And you go to overtime, at least give yourself a chance in that game, right? So you like, the results are what the results are. And the analytics account for some of that stuff because it can look back on situations and in history and stuff like that. But also, your gut is your gut, and I don't think that should be ignored. So to round this all up, Michael Wilbon, not that bad of a thought. Not that bad of a thought. I cannot go out there and say, Josh, that I agree with Mr. Wilbon, who unfortunately had a good 14 seconds and then a bad 16 seconds afterwards. I think I'm doing the math there, right?
I believe technically it was 12 seconds.
12 seconds followed by a bad 18 seconds. That actually makes more sense for the ratio of Michael Wilbon talking. A good 33% for Michael Wilbon.
Well, that's not a very catchy title, so I'm just going to say Connor Happer, Wilbon was right, in quotes, right? That's what I'm going to do with this, right?
Where are you going to make this public, Josh?
On the
are you going to email Frank Kelly and about it?
When we post these clips online and on the website, on the radio replay page, Connor Happer, Michael Wilbon was right.
I don't feel good about it, but it'll be one of those things where people will yell at me and then I'll have to say, click the link. Did you even read the story?
We don't do nuance.
Did you even read the story?
You're going to be like Scott Docterman, just defending.
Caitlin Clark effect.
Here's my work. I'm just defending it all day. Like my senior thesis.
A couple questions here from Twitter. Mitchell writes in.
I'm Mitch Holtis.
Not that one. Oh. Do the analytics ever say Iowa should throw the ball?
Oh. Interesting.
Hello, analytics. This is me, Kirk Ferentz. I know we just met, but do you think that we should ever throw it, given our current situation and our punter is our best player and our defense is really good because our offense is so poor?
No,
thank you. Never throw it. Punt.
Bunting is winning.
Actually, they do a lot of stuff that's anti-analytics. They do a lot of stuff that's just feel. Like I said, Their defense, and people talk about Iowa's defense all the time and how good, oh man, they Phil Parker and all this great defense. And don't get me wrong, they do a lot of things fundamentally well. But their defense is good in a good chunk of a part because their offense is putrid. Never mistake that for anything else. The reason that they're not becoming good at offense is to protect their defense.
Punting is winning.
That is why they have chosen for all of these years to not be good. And that is why nobody wants their offensive coordinator job, because it's set up to fail. Because you're going into it, you're searching for the person who's going to take the job by telling them, look, we are purposefully ass at offense. We're never going to be explosive. We're never going to score more than 25 points a game. Like, hopefully we get 42 in the non-con and your average can just jump up. Like, the best you could do with us is, the best I can tell you is that you're going to have Caden Proctor at left tackle, and we're going to run it a little bit. We might fix the run game a little bit. And we might have a quarterback who's not 300 pounds.
Maybe.
That's the best you can do, though. That's why nobody wants the job.
Amazing Daniel with a good question.
Hello, Amazing.
On the YouTube stream. What do the analytics say about onside kicks when playing in Greenwich Mean Time?
Good question.
I'm betting the book says don't do that.
Jack John writes in.
Hi, Jack John.
After we're done talking about analytics, let's talk about how the metrics in college basketball are overused and relied on too much. Does the committee actually even have a real discussion anymore? I could just check KenPom and predict 99% of the teams that make it.
They probably have a conversation about like 12 teams each and every March.
I think there's something to be said for that, Jack John. But the metrics take into account the resume, right? Your metrics are how good you are. Your metric says how good you are, but it's based upon who you've beat, where you've beat them, who you've lost to, where you've lost to them, and things like that. So,
also,
there's not a whole lot of, like, in the net anyway. The net is how it's always been explained to me. I have to go back and look at the net and exactly what goes into it again. But I believe the net is not it's not a predictive measure. KenPom is a predictive measure, right? There's some things in there that are like, yeah, if they keep this up, this is what they'll be. The net is a strength of schedule based algorithm that pumps out the number at the end. So that's literally what you've done. It's not expected win total.
Also, don't need a 3 here.
Hey, Josh, speaking of analytics, you like to foul up 3? Now that's a gut thing but if we're unloading all the analytics conversations right now, let's just do it.
I think more teams to foul up 3? I think more teams should do it.
I personally don't. That's a gut thing for me. I don't want to send the guy to the line and sort of break up I know it probably, more times than not, it's going to give yourself a better chance should you make free throws. I do think free throws are a much more wobbly thing now in college basketball than they've probably ever been. But I personally don't need, I don't want to foul up 3. Hey, if you make a 3 on me, then you make a 3 on me. Guard the 3. If you make a 2 on me, great. I'll take the free throws and I don't need to put them there. So I say no foul up 3. Now, that is not a one-size-fits-all, Josh.
It's not.
There are situations in there. If there's a crappy free throw shooter somewhere in there, then put Shaq on the line. Shaqopotamus. It was Hack-a-Cockbrenner for basically the majority of the last week, which is funny considering he's actually a pretty good shooter. Historically, he's been a really good free throw shooter. He just hasn't been very good this year at the free throw line, as his three-point shot has expanded, which is funny. Joel writes in.
Hi, Joel.
He says, I still like kicking the extra point first, and assuming you make it, you can decide to go for 2 or not if you scored the second touchdown. So I don't know, apparently the analytics tell you that doing that gives you less of a percentage chance to win the game or even tie the game, because I think what we probably don't give enough credit for is that extra points aren't automatic, right? You can, now there's a better chance you're going to make the extra point than get the 2, but you could very easily step up to that line and miss an extra point, especially now that the thing has been moved back. And keep in mind, you've only seen this emergence of going for 2 as the extra point has been moved back.
You give me 2 cracks at getting 3 yards. I'm pretty sure I can get it.
What about 1 crack? Less of a chance. Rick has this.
Hi, Rick.
From the text line. Analytics are good for Gen X, Y, Z, F, who are spoiled by computers. A good coach knows his team. Thoughts?
That came through in a text message? Not a raven landing on our doorstep?
Hey, I'll agree with you on the last part. If we just combine the first 12 seconds of Michael Wilbon with the last sentence of what Rick said, which is a good coach knows his team, then we got a real take. That's a real life thing that I just can 100% subscribe to. Half measures on both accounts for me, though, in this specific case. Bob writes in on the Equitable Bank inbox.
Hi, Bob.
Spot on with analytics. Largely junk. Coaches are in their positions to make calls based on the flow of the game and what they know about their players. Will you overlay this dislike of analytics onto college hoops as well? Many people are wondering about the college hoops analytics. Hearing people talk about the majority of college basketball analytics is lame and tiresome. A person could really spin themselves up and get very misled from college hoops analytics. Take a look at the net. Talk about complete junk. The net, by the way, in my defense of the net, here I am defending the net.
Wow, look at you.
In the net's defense, the net is actually factually junk until the end of the season. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. The more sample size you get, the better it is. But the only time it gets looked at is at the end, and it's better than the RPI. And it's what you've done. It's absolute crap at the beginning of the season when the one game getting played on the aircraft carrier is the only game that's mattered, and everybody else is playing roast beef steak, right? Like that's when the net is junk. The net is becoming better. The net, with time, grows and matures into this beautiful flower of a thing.
Oh wow!
I didn't realize that people rejected the college basketball analytics thing. That's interesting. So, would you rather hear me not talk about the things that Creighton is doing according to KenPom?
No, the little KenPom thing is a great bit. I got to keep that.
Here's how I use I look at KenPom to confirm the things that I think about the teams that I watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I use it to get an overview of the teams that I don't know, aka Nebraska or Creighton's opponents.
Okay.
That's how I use it. I don't think that's overdoing it.
No. You got to have something.
I get a good sense of the style of the game that's going to be played and what the other team wants to do if I haven't watched them play.
You're not watching ACC Network, so we know you don't follow the opponents until they get to town.
To go with Bob here, like there's undoubtedly, I feel as if I am more prepared if I have watched a team play rather than just look at their analytics. But I do look at their analytics. I look at their KenPom numbers, my little KenPoms, to confirm things I already know or watch for trends and things of that nature. Like the one where, Trey Alexander's 3-point shooting percentage was lower than Ryan Kalkbrenner's going into Saturday. I was like, whoa! Now, I didn't need KenPom to tell me that. You could just look that up on like ESPN.com. That's not an advanced stat of any nature. By the way, before we go into break here, you want an advanced stat? This is from this is a Creighton advanced stat via cracked statistician Rob Anderson yesterday.
Best in the biz.
So this is quote Rob Anderson's favorite Baylor stat right now.
Baylor Shireman, not Baylor University.
Not Baylor University, who people forget lost in the Sweet 16 last year in the round of 32 last year to Creighton. Baylor Shireman is averaging 39.9 minutes in conference play. 39.9. So what's the first thing that comes to your head, Josh? Well, what happened? How do you get to 39.9? Why hasn't he played 40?
Well, he played 55 the other night.
That's because he played 26 against DePaul.
Got DePaul coming up.
Damn it, DePaul! So we need another triple overtime game. Get that number up.
Yep.
And Baylor Shireman can average a full game throughout an entire 20-game Big East slate, which not enough people are giving him credit for. And by the way, Creighton practiced yesterday and they cut it a little bit short, but then there was another hour afterwards where guys were just, getting extra work in. For all this talk about tired legs and all this stuff, and are they going to be able to make it through this grind of the Big East? Like, yeah, they're kids. They'll be fine. They'll be fine.